All right, this is Korematsu versus the United States by me. So this is asking the big questions. So the basic question is it right for the US under wartime powers to restrict the rights of Japanese Americans and send them to internment camps? And let's be real, these are concentration camps given the conditions. Hands in the pocket. The petitioner was Fred Korematsu, the specific defend, uh, defendant, and the respondent was the United States, the literal federal government. As you can imagine, this made it the big case. So there was a specific executive order that Franklin D. Roosevelt made that relocated a lot of Japanese Americans into concentration camps. The conditions were that like his family were and him were to be sent there, but he didn't comply, and then he fought that in court. That order was being challenged in the court case, specifically the 14th Amendment, and even more specifically, the Equal Protection Clause within the amendment. And even more specifically, it was about discrimination and whether that was justified. The context was that World War II was being raged on by the United States, and this was kind of egged on by the Pearl Harbor, a bombing by Japan that caused over 2,000 deaths on the U.S. harbor. And because of that, Franklin thought it was appropriate to use it to do this order, to justify this. And it is worth noting that the Solicitor General in 2011 confirmed that the U.S. government and court did hide a naval report that confirmed that Japanese Americans did not pose a national security threat. It did take a federal route to the Supreme Court. The district court affirmed the order against the Korematsu was valid and they violated it. The Ninth Circuit Court did the same. And then the Supreme Court decided to uphold that order, and it legitimized the concentration camps and discrimination against Japanese Americans. Justice Black said that the order wasn't based on racial prejudice, but it was wartime necessity of national security. Frankfurter concurred, saying that it was espionage and sabotage that there was a potential risk of. Justice Jackson wrote that this was legitimizing a level of systemic racism and discrimination, and it violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. All legal restrictions that curtail the civil rights of a single racial group are immediately suspect. This is not to say that all such restrictions are unconstitutional by Justice Black. This is strange because he says that it's right to suspect this specific restriction, but at the same time, he ends up ruling for the order, which I find kind of interesting. And strangely enough, I think this is a case of judicial activism on the part of Justice Black because he is using the ruling as a form of kind of policy. He is, first of all, justifying the level of systemic racism and discrimination, and he is using it to justify national security. So goes beyond just ruling if it's constitutional; it's for some other purpose. The short-term impacts were that Korematsu was sentenced to 5 years probation, and it set a precedent for sending Japanese Americans to camps during that war. The long-term impacts were expanded government power relating to civil rights, and it restricted the freedoms of the individual. Systemically normalized anti-Asian racism, and it created generational trauma. I cannot speak. They lost $3.6 billion of wealth through loss of businesses and property. Personally, I would have overruled the decision in lower courts and ruled the order unconstitutional. Korematsu is a law abiding US citizen. The court has not decided otherwise, and as he is a citizen, he is entitled to the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. He has not been convicted of any crime that would state otherwise. He just simply exists and was born here and had Japanese parents. Even if the order was only intended as a matter of national security, its effect is the violation of the 14th Amendment with discrimination against the demographic of citizens, which makes it unconstitutional. And these are all my sources. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and that's it.